You hit play on a voicemail, a video call recording, a birthday toast someone filmed on their phone, and there it is. That gut drop moment where you think, that is not what I sound like. Thin, nasally, almost like a stranger borrowed your mouth for a second. It's done, woman. Everyone has this exact reaction. Not most people, everyone. Which means the wrongness you're hearing isn't really about your voice at all. It's about two completely different sound systems that have been running in your head this entire time, and only one of them has ever told you the truth. So why does your own voice sound completely wrong the moment it's recorded, like someone else is speaking through your mouth? Think about that for a second. This isn't a bad microphone. It isn't a bad recording. It isn't even really about your voice changing. Something else is going on, something that has been quietly happening every single time you've ever spoken, your entire life, without you ever noticing it. Ritzdanhuamins of Ufane. There are two versions of your voice. One of them you have heard every day since childhood. The other one, everyone else has heard the entire time. Only one of them is actually real. Let's start with the part you already know, even if you never thought about it this way. Every time you speak, sound leaves your mouth and travels through the air, the same way it would if you were talking to someone across the table. That sound bounces around the room, enters your ear canal, and gets picked up like any other sound in your environment. This is called air conduction, and it's the exact same pathway a microphone uses. A microphone has no idea who is talking. It just sits there, waiting for air to vibrate against it. So whatever your voice sounds like through the air is whatever your microphone records. No tricks, no distortion. Just air doing what air does. But here's where it gets strange. At the exact same moment that sound is traveling through the air and into your ear canal, something else is happening inside your head that has nothing to do with air at all. When you speak, your vocal cords vibrate, and those vibrations don't just create sound waves that shoot outward into the room. They also travel backward into the very structure that's producing them. Your jawbone starts vibrating. Your skull starts vibrating. And your skull happens to be connected directly to your inner ear. So while sound is looping around through the air outside your head, a second signal is traveling through solid bone, straight into the same inner ear, arriving almost instantly, with zero delay, because it never left your body in the first place. But a first place, in Thempergros, quotium place, tuodia mind. You are essentially wearing a set of built-in bone conduction headphones, and you have been wearing them since the day you learned to talk. Every single word you've ever spoken has been delivered to your own ears through two completely separate routes at the same time, one through the air like a normal sound, and one straight through the architecture of your own head. Now here's where your inner ear comes in, specifically a small spiral structure called the cochlea. The cochlea's job is to take vibrations, whatever their source, and convert them into signals your brain can interpret as sound. It doesn't care whether a vibration arrived through air or through bone. It just receives whatever hits it and processes it. So when you talk, your cochlea is getting two different vibration patterns landing on it nearly simultaneously, and your brain, being the efficient organ that it is, doesn't bother separating them. It just blends them into one seamless experience. You never noticed there were two channels because your brain never presented them to you as two channels. It handed you a single merged voice, and you assumed that was simply what your voice sounded like. But blending two different signals doesn't mean they're equal. And this is the part that explains the entire mystery. Bone conducts sound very differently than air does. Air is good at carrying higher frequencies efficiently, the crisp, thinner parts of sound. Bone, on the other hand, is much better at transmitting lower frequencies. Dense, solid material vibrates slowly and efficiently at low frequencies, the same way a thick drum sounds deeper than a thin one. So when sound travels through your skull and jawbone, the low end gets amplified. The result is that the bone-conducted portion of your voice, the part only you have ever heard, carries extra bass, extra depth, extra richness. It's like your voice has been quietly running through a built-in equalizer that boosts the low end every single time you've spoken for your entire life. This is why the voice in your head has always sounded fuller, warmer, more resonant than what actually leaves your mouth. It's not your imagination, and it's not vanity, it's physics. Bone doesn't lie about what it's good at transmitting, and what it's good at transmitting is exactly the frequencies that make a voice sound deep and substantial. Now think about what a microphone is physically capable of picking up. A microphone is a small membrane that vibrates when air pressure hits it. That's the entire mechanism. It has no jawbone, it has no skull, it cannot be touched by your bones because it isn't attached to your body at all. It floats in the air a few inches from your mouth, waiting for air molecules to nudge its membrane back and forth. Whatever bone conduction is doing inside your head, the microphone has absolutely no access to it. It only ever receives the air-conducted signal, the same signal that travels to every other person in the room, which means a recording isn't adding distortion, it's just missing an entire channel of information that only ever existed inside your own skull. And this same bone conduction pathway isn't some strange one-off quirk unique to hearing your own voice. It's a real, well-documented mechanism that gets used deliberately in sound technology. Bone conduction headphones, for example, sit against the skull instead of inside the ear canal, sending vibrations directly through bone to reach the inner ear, bypassing the eardrum entirely. Certain hearing aids use the exact same principle for people whose ear canals can't process airborne sound effectively. Engineers didn't invent this pathway. They just found a practical use for a channel your body was already running the whole time, completely on its own, without you ever being asked. So now you know there are two channels, one traveling through air, one traveling through bone. But knowing that intellectually and actually feeling it happen are two different things. There's a way to catch the switch in the act, to briefly turn down one channel and lean into the other, on purpose, right now, without any equipment. Clip both hands lightly over your ears. Not pressing hard, just enough to partially seal the ear canal. Now talk normally, a full sentence, anything at all. Notice what happens. Your voice gets louder in a strange way, and deeper, almost boomy, like you're talking inside a small drum. That's not your imagination. By covering your ear canal, you're partially blocking the air-conducted sound from reaching your eardrum the normal way, which means the bone-conducted signal, the one that was always running underneath, quietly gets a bigger share of the spotlight. You are, for a few seconds, hearing something closer to the version of your voice that's been living inside your head your whole life. Here's where it gets useful. Right after you do that, record yourself saying the exact same sentence on your phone and play it back immediately. Don't overthink the sentence. Keep it short. 10 seconds is plenty. What you're doing is placing two versions of your voice back to back, close enough together that your brain can actually compare them instead of just reacting to the recording in isolation. The cupped version leans bone-conducted. The playback is purely air-conducted, the same signal a microphone was always limited to catching. Hearing them close together, one right after the other, turns an abstract idea into something you can actually notice with your own ears. Then do it again, once more, same sentence, same setup. This second pass matters more than it seems like it should. The first time you compare the two voices, your brain is still a little startled, still processing the gap. The second time, it's not meeting the recorded voice for the first time anymore. It's meeting it again, which is a completely different experience. Recognition feels different than surprise. That's the entire goal, not to make the recording sound different, but to give your brain a reference point so it stops treating your own recorded voice like an intruder. And this is really the whole point of everything we just walked through. That cringe, that gut drop feeling when you hear yourself on a voicemail, was never a sign that something is wrong with your voice, or with you. Both channels, bone and air, were doing exactly what they're built to do the entire time. Nothing malfunctioned, nothing aged badly, nothing broke down. It was simply two normal systems that were never designed to match, quietly running side by side, since the day you learned to speak. Over the next week, you don't need to force anything, just notice. Notice the next voicemail, the next video call recording, the next voice memo you accidentally play out loud. Pay attention to whether that jolt feels quite as sharp as it used to, now that you understand where the gap actually comes from. It may not disappear completely, and that's fine. That's not the promise here. The promise was simply that the mystery would click, and that curiosity would replace at least some of the cringe. Because here's the bigger thread running underneath all of this. The voice in your head has been quietly giving you an incomplete picture for your entire life, and you never had a reason to question it, because it felt so obviously true. The same thing happens with how you sense your own aging, your own energy, your own body from the inside. What you feel internally can seem completely convincing and still be missing half the information. The outside signal, the one that seems less familiar, is often the one carrying the fuller truth. Now you know why that gap exists, at least for your voice, and that's usually where real change starts. Not with force, with noticing.